Hi there, it's Nick Dutch here yet again. I'm going to try today a experiment of sorts. What I'm going to do is have a look into the 13 principles of Wiccan belief. And I'm going to go through them one by one. Now, from the outset, I don't quite know what attitude I'm going to take to these, what state of mind, what mood is going to come through to me. I mean, I'm just going to try and go through them one by one, try and analyze them, see what comes through. My assumption, and sometimes it is useful to start with an assumption, is that there may be aspects of these 13 principles which I am already practicing. There may be some which I may wish to incorporate more into my life and into my attitude with the passage of time. There may be things that I already feel a certain affinity with. And there may be things that I either have some objection to or don't agree with. Now, I want to try and see this exercise as an opportunity to think more about what my attitude is towards Wicca, and to see whether these principles that I've got here on screen now are useful guidelines for me as an individual. I've only looked into these, very, very briefly before, but not in any real depth. So it's going to be a very interesting experience for me, and so you're going to see, because this is like an unrehearsed video, any changes that go through me whilst I'm going through these things. I already have a certain degree of skepticism with reference to these 13 principles, primarily because please forgive me, primarily because the council who set this up, the Council of American Witches, after they had got all these things written down and got them incorporated into the U.S. military's chaplaincy handbook, disbanded. Now, they did not disband because their work here was done. They did not disband because they've completed, their life task or their main mission. They disbanded because of disagreements between the traditions that they followed. So, as far as are the 13 principles of Wiccan belief a way of uniting people who call themselves Wiccan, we cannot say that. We have evidence from history that it does not fulfill that particular function. These principles, as I pointed out before, have been roughly defined as, where is it? A common set of principles encompassing many paths and traditions in America. Alright. An attempt to uniform and define the many differing beliefs across the many paths and traditions prevalent at that time. Alright, now, firstly, the word is attempt. It isn't to make these things concrete. It is an attempt to uniform and define the many differing beliefs. So there is an acceptance that there are many differing beliefs in Wicca. And there's also an agreement that this was to do with the traditions prevalent at that time, and has got no mention of changes in history and changes over time. So we will have to look at these 13 principles as if they're a time capsule on Wiccan ideas and Wiccan thinking as promoted by the Council of Witches, the now disbanded Council of Witches, in the early to mid 1970s. Of course, we're now in like 2009, so we've got to see that there may be some limitations to these particular principles. It says here, Weshke believed that the common set of principles and definitions encompassing the many paths and traditions in America would ultimately help to dispel many of the myths about witchcraft and to distinguish it from Satanism and other misconceptions in the eyes of the general public. Okay, so rather than being an international set of traditions, these are principles which are appropriate to America, according to that statement. According to the belief of this guy of Weshke, I think must be the pronunciation there. And it also says, in the eyes of the general public, suggesting that this is not necessarily something to be adhered to by a practitioner, but is essentially something which is promoted to the general public. It doesn't say promoted to people in covens for them to obey in covens. It says here, Weshke believed that it's to distinguish it from Satanism and other misconceptions in the eyes of the general public. So there's nothing here which states that these 13 principles have to be adhered to in accordance with the eyes of this guy Weshke, who was part of the council, which is already a very interesting point of view. And these 13 principles were written by this guy Weshke. Alright, I'm going to stop the camera now, and then I'm going to do lots of little videos going into each one of these principles bit by bit.